Welcome, UCL fans, to our Season 2, Week 3 review and ranking for the United Championship League. I am your host and Talonflame64, and I have watched all the matches, calculated all the results, and came up with what I believe is a fair and accurate ranking system for the United Championship League. If you do enjoy this video, I hope you leave it a thumbs up. Don't forget to let me know down in the comment section below what match you enjoyed most this last weekend. And also don't forget to subscribe, where I do new UCL videos every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. This one is going up a little bit later than normal for it. I've had a lot of things going on, just haven't had time to sit down and record. But let's go ahead and start by looking at a review of all the matches that actually did take place this weekend. So starting off, we have the Manchester Megazone taking on the South Beach Slow Kings. Both teams fighting for their first victory. The Manchester Megazone fighting for their first victory ever this season. And it was a 3-5 victory for the Manchester Megazone. David of the South Beach Slow Kings was unable, he lost internet connection about halfway through the battle and was unable to reconnect. But even if they didn't have disconnection issues, I still believe that the Manchester Megazone would have won, probably by a 5-0 victory for it. And the MVP from the Manchester Megazone is the Megalodios, which is ironic because, of course, last week the South Beach Slow Kings lost to a Megalodios, so losing basically almost the exact same Pokemon 2 weeks in a row. But if anything to take out of this, the streak is over for the Manchester Megazones, which is a streak that no one wants to have, which was a losing streak in this one. And they have secured their first victory in the UCL. So congratulations to Faint Attacks from the Manchester Megazones getting their first victory, not only of the season, but in the UCL in general. Moving on to our second match, we have the Tucson Terrakions, who are 1-1, taking on the Long Island Iraqis, who are also 1-1. And it was a 2-0 victory for the Tucson Terrakions. MVP of the match will go to Drapion from the Tucson Terrakions, who did manage to pick up 2 knockouts, including knocking out the Mega Alakazam from the Long Island Iraqis, which basically secured their win for this matchup. Moving on to our third match, we have the Carolina Keldios, who are 1-1, taking on the Bristol City Blazekins, who are also 1-1. And it was a 1-0 victory for the Carolina Keldios. The MVP of the match goes to the Hitmonlee from the Carolina Keldios, who managed to get 2 knockouts this week. So we're going to move on now to our fourth match, where we have the Tulsa Talonflames, who are 1-1, taking on the St. Louis Rampardos, who are also 1-1. And it was a 3-0 victory for the St. Louis Rampardos. MVP of the match goes to Heracross from the St. Louis Rampardos, who managed to get 3 knockouts this week. Could have been more if it weren't for the Stealth Rock setup early on in the game, which took out 2 of the Tulsa Talonflames members at the very end of the match. Moving on to our fifth match of the week, we had the Real Moril, who are 2-0, taking on the Toronto Togekiss, who are 1-1. And it was a 5-0 victory for the Real Moril. MVP of the match went to Meadowswine from the Real Moril, who managed to get, 3 knockouts this week. So good job from the Real Morils. Our sixth match, we had the Grand Canyon Greninjas taking on the Durham Greta, both teams, of course, being 1-1. And it was a 2-0 victory for the Durham Greta. MVP of the match goes to Shaman from the Durham Greta, who managed to get 2 knockouts this week. Moving on to our seventh match, we had the Pittsburgh Pichus, who are 1-1, taking on the Philadelphia Alligators, who are 0-2. And it was a 5-0 victory for the Pittsburgh Pichus. The MVP of the match goes to Hoopa, who managed to get 2 knockouts this week. And now we move on to the hype match of the week. The hype match of the week, of course, will be the Newcastle Nidokings taking on the Bronx Sparetix. Both teams undefeated so far going into this match. It was going to be a very good match to see nonetheless. But it was a 5-0 victory for the Bronx Sparetix. Their MVP of the match goes to Reuniclus once again, who was, of course, the MVP last week, who managed to get I think it was like 4 knockouts, if I remember correctly. I don't have it written down on my notes that I have, but if I remember correctly, the Reuniclus did manage to get 4 knockouts on the Newcastle Nidoking. So, congratulations to the Bronx Sparetix for continuing on with their winning streak and being up there with it. But now that we've gone through the actual reviews, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the standings. Now, of course, if you're not too familiar with how I do the standings, every team will get 1 point every time they knock out an opponent's Pokemon, lose a point every time they lose an opponent's Mon. And they have to be responsible for the knockout. If the knockout is due to either recoil, life orb recoil, then they do not earn the points on it. But if they get the knockout through either something like a Stealth Rock Spikes, the toxic burn damage that they had to inflict themselves, if they put a Flame Orb or a Toxic Orb on the Pokemon, it does not count for it. And then, of course, they have to actually been involved with it. So, but let's go ahead and take a look at the rankings that I have up here. So, tied for 15th place, we have the Philadelphia for Alligators and the South Beach Slowkings, both with a differential score of -10, and of course having winless records so far. Philadelphia for Alligators fall a spot from 14th to 15th. South Beach Slowkings, helping make up that differential, takes them out of 16th, but essentially still in last place nonetheless. At number 14, we have the Manchester Megazone, again with their first win of the season. 1-2 record, differential score of -5. Last week, of course, they were 15th, so moving up 1 spot. Moving on, we have what I believe is probably the biggest fall of the week, where we have it's a tie for 12th place between the Toronto Togekiss and the Grand Canyon Greninjas, both with 1-2 records and a differential score of -4. Toronto Togekiss were in 7th place, dropping down all the way to 12th. Grand Canyon Greninjas were tied for 10th last week, falling only 2 spots to 12th place. At number 11, we have the Tulsa Talonflames, who, because of their differential, have moved up a spot. 1-2 with a differential of -3. They were 12th last place, so even though they lost, they still move up just due to the differential score on it. At number 10, we have the Bristol City Blazekins, who are 1-2 for the season, and with a differential of -2. Last week, of course, they were tied for 8th place. At number 9, in 9th place, we have the Long Island Iraqis, also with a 1-2 record, but have a positive differential score due to them, of course, forfeiting from week 2 on it. Last week, they were tied for 4th place, so they've also had a big fall from grace, going from a tie from 4th down to 9th place. At number 8, we're going to start to see a little bit more of the bigger scores here, but we have the Carolina Keldios, currently 2-1 in the record, but have a negative differential, moving up 4 spaces from 12th place to 8th place. Tied for 6th place, we have the Tucson Terrakions and the Newcastle Nidokings, both with a 2-1 record, but their differential scores have put them at an even 0 right now. Tucson Terrakions moving up 2 spaces from 8th, from being tied with 8th place. Newcastle Nidokings dropping a few spaces, who were 3rd in the previous week. At number 5, or in 5th place I should say, we have the St. Louis Rampardos, who are 2-1 record now and have a differential score of 1. Last week, of course, they were tied for 10th place, so the St. Louis Rampardos making their way back up to the top spot that they're so accustomed to being in. In 4th place, we have the Durham Guns, who are 2-1 and have a differential score now of 4, moving up 2 places because, of course, they were 6th place last week. In 3rd place, we have the Pittsburgh Pichus, who are 2-1 and have a differential score of 8. So right now, securing their spot in a higher differential. They were last week, of course, tied for 4th, and this time guaranteeing that 3rd place spot. And now we come to our teams who are undefeated so far in the season. We have the Bronx Sparetix, who are 0-3 with a differential score of 11. And they are still in 2nd place from the previous week. And then we have the Real Morrill, who are also 3-1, and due to them having another, I think they had a 5-0 victory not only last week, but of course this week as well, have secured them in 1st place. Now, little spoilers when it comes to Friday's matchup, when it comes to my Friday video, The hype match of the week is going to be the Bronx Sparetix taking on the Real Maril. If I remember correctly, that is going to be happening. So it'll be finally determining who is in first place after next weekend for it. But we'll get more into those details a little bit later on for it on our Friday video. So, but again, if you do enjoy this video, please leave it a thumbs up, and don't forget, let me know down in the comment section what match you enjoyed most this weekend. Don't forget as well, share this with your friends. If you want this to become more of an official thing with the UCL, tweet it out to the UCL community, and just, let them know how much you enjoy this. But thank you all very much for watching. You have yourselves a good time, good day. Take care, and goodbye.